UFC Charlotte. These are the full card predictions and the betting breakdown. Main event, Jailton Almeida versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. We're going to talk about each of the matchups on the card. Make sure you guys smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Turn the post notifications on and make sure to share the video as well. Also note, full card fight companion Saturday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. Early start to this fight night card. Join me for that live stream. Let's get into the first fight of the night. Ladies going after it. It's Jessica Rose Clark versus Tainara Lisboa. The pick is Jessica Rose Clark to win. I see her taking Lisboa down and controlling top position. Lisboa is a Muay Thai champion. That's great. But specialists in this day and age, not going to fare super well. 5-2 record, and you're like, oh, you know, she's winning 3 fights in a row over in Brazil. Hold on real quick. 0-0, 0-1, 1-4. She's fighting nobody level fighters. Jessica Rose Clark, regardless of her injury layoff, she hasn't fought in 10 months? It's been a little while, right? But you look, I mean, there's still, quality enough competition level here. Yeah, she's got some L's, but all 5 of the opponents recently are UFC caliber. Lisboa, fighting nobodies. Now, she fought Norma Dumont and lost in MMA early on in her career. And she also fought Valentina Shevchenko in Muay Thai and got destroyed. But I feel like it's going to be a one-sided fight. And Jessica Rose Clark is going to grind her way to a win because she's not super urgent for the finish. I would love to say she's going to get a sub, but Rose Clark tends to be winning decisions, sometimes getting TKOs. I respect the Lisboa striking for sure. I think Clark is mixing up takedowns. Yes, it's a women's fight, and it's nice to jump dogs, but at the end of the day, young Brazilian prospects, I guess Lisboa is not that young, but Brazilian prospects in general, women's division, early fights on the card, in my opinion, tend to be a good fade. And now you talk about somebody who's fighting 1-4 fighters in their last time out. Give me Rose Clark. Clear unanimous decision. Money line, Rose Clark is not bad at -134, and then Lisboa upwards of like +120, +115, depending where you're at. I like the side of Jessica Rose Clark. I think she's getting it done, and it should be a rather dominant grappling display by Rose Clark in this one. Get a little win streak going for herself. Next fight on the card, Gabe Green versus Bryan Battle. The pick for me is Bryan Battle to win this fight. I'm excited, dude. He's a Charlotte, North Carolina guy in the event in Charlotte. So he gets a homecoming fight. And this is, in my opinion, a good stylistic matchup. He has a big range advantage over Gabe Green. I think he's the better wrestler of the two. I would say Gabe Green probably has more one-punch thud, but he's not amazing at his multi-shot combos against guys that manage distance well and also have decent gas tanks. I know he put it on Johan Lainez. Different stylistic matchup. Bryan Battle is not going to blow his wad. He's going to have a patient attack. He fights well from the outside with the kickboxing. Like I said, wrestling base too. Gabe Green's a little mini powerhouse. He's not tall for welterweight at 5'10". I guess he's really not that short. But when he gets in the cage, in my opinion, Gabe Green looks 5'9" at best. He don't look 5'10". I think that Bryan Battle is going to be too long, and I think he's going to be too strong in the clinch. And I also expect constant improvements for the young Bryan Battle. He took a loss against Rinat Fakhretdinov last time out. It's Fakhretdinov. That's just a nightmare stylistic matchup. And, he had a good little run going. He wins on The Ultimate Fighter. He wins against Trey Sean, and then he beats Sato impressively. And then they throw him Rinat, who's 20-2, fucking savage, the OV at the end. You knew it was going to be trouble. Gabe Green on the other side fought Ian Gary, lost, but, he's putting up gutsy efforts in his fights. Beat Philly Fresh Phil Rowe. It's a good win. Lost to Daniel Rodriguez. So I don't think Gabe Green's a bad fighter. This is a tough fight for Bryan Battle, but in my opinion, he comes through with a win. Stylistic matchup advantage, I feel like, for him, and I expect the improvements to be evident here. Even though it wasn't long ago he fought Fakhretdinov, different stylistic fight too. Battle, win, and I think he's an extremely good underdog. Slight plus money, upwards of +108 best value, but around that +102 range. I like the plus money Bryan Battle. He's a pretty confident pick for me. Gabe Green, -122. I like Battle at home to get a unanimous decision over a tough, gutsy Gabe Green. Next fight on the card, ladies going after it here. Jailton Kim and Mandy Böhm. Listen, I want to pick women's underdogs, but I'm not picking Mandy Böhm. I'm picking Jailton Kim to win. She should outstrike Mandy Böhm for 3 rounds. I think she's going to be better with her grappling too. I guess Böhm might have a little bit of like a distance kicking advantage if she's ripping some fast kicks, but I was not impressed at all by Mandy Böhm throughout her UFC fights, and I wasn't impressed with her pre-UFC when she was coming in. Jailton Kim, regardless of the fact she's on a 4-fight losing streak, competitive in fights against the likes of Jocelyn Edwards, Priscilla Cachoeira, lost to Molly Meatball, Alexa Grasso. Like, these are forgivable L's here at this point. 4 losses, but Mandy Böhm is not the level of any of those 4 fighters that Kim has recently lost to. I think Kim's going to have the better striking. She also has a little bit of a longer reach, whereas Böhm, in majority of her fights, her biggest advantage is her length. She's got an inch less reach now against Kim, and Kim can box a bit. So give me Jailton Kim. I'm going to say probably unanimous decision for Jailton Kim. She doesn't have a ton of power. I mean, if she could put several shots together, but like nothing has told me, Mandy Böhm is chinny and Jailton Kim is not Mrs. Iron Fist. They call her the Fire Fist, but like there's not absolute dynamite in those hands. So give me Fire Fist Jailton Kim. I'll say decision win. I think she's getting it done. She's minus 220 as the favorite. It's a hideous line. And then Mandy Böhm plus 185. There's no chance I'm betting Mandy Böhm. Jailton Kim, I think she's definitely the better fighter. Should get a win, but that tag is hideous for a women's fight, especially betting on somebody with 4 losses in a row. Could be trouble city. And also, we got to note something. This is now Jailton Kim dropping down to 125 as opposed to being at 135. Hopefully the scales don't fuck her up. I guess if she looked terrible on the scales, maybe Mandy Böhm is somehow a bet pick flip later in the week with the weigh-in show. I guess we'll find that out. But ultimately, I think Jailton Kim's got this fight. Next fight on the card, Natan Levy, Pete Rodriguez. So we broke this fight down a few weeks back, and the pick early, right? It was me leaning Natan Levy, but I said, let's wait for the scales. I'm picking Pete Rodriguez to win this fight. I think he's going to knock Natan Levy out now that he has had more time to acclimate and become a real 55er. My concern with Pete was going to be how he looks on the scales and how he performs in the cage. He gets some extra time now to lose some body fat, get ready for this weight cut. Natan Levy, in my opinion, is hittable. And also something I'm going to say is the MMA Lab is a fucking savage gym. And you got underdogs coming out of MMA Lab. Marcus McGee rings a bell, and he gets a sick win against Journey Newsom. And now Pete Rodriguez dropping down to lightweight, his debut there, taking on Natan Levy, who doesn't have great punching power, who a decent technician, a guy that can grapple and strike karate style from distance, whereas Rodriguez can throw hammers with his punches, and he's got knockouts at higher weight classes. If he carries the power, which I'm going to say he's going to, I think Pete Rodriguez is going to shut Natan Levy's lights off. So give me Pete Rodriguez to get it done. I got to pick my guy here. Dead game to leave Natan Levy dead on the canvas. The odds are crazy wide. Rodriguez at plus 245 as a dog. Natan Levy minus 285. I like the Pete Rodriguez knockout side. I think the boxing will be effective. Obviously, at weigh-ins, we're going to see how he looks, but because he's had some more time to drop that weight, I'm feeling more confident in Pete Rodriguez having a successful night. So, Pete Rodriguez for the knockout. Next fight on the card, showcase fight, Carlos Ulberg, Ihor, Potieria. The pick here is Carlos Ulberg to annihilate Potieria. Ulberg's a tremendous kickboxer, city kickboxing gym, kickboxing background, super technical, destroyed Nikolai Negumereanu last time out. Common opponent between the two, and Potieria got fucked up by Negumereanu. Now, MMA math is bullshit. That doesn't matter here. Potieria's come off a nice win over Shogun, legend of the game, but it was the shadow of Shogun. He wasn't even there. It was his corpse, really. Carlos Ulberg is going to snipe Ihor Potieria. He's going to rip him apart with low kicks. He's going to use a long jab, and Potieria is going to walk into something big, and I think he's going to end up getting knocked out in this fight. I will say something with Potieria is he's got decent stand-up for sure, and against like the lesser technical guys, he'll do fairly well. He fights out of the southpaw stance. He can work a decent jab, and he definitely has got some solid kicks as well with punch and power. He's got big hooks. But Carlos Ulberg is way more of a sniper, way more technical, and he's also bringing in a bit of a length advantage. And I also think definitely speed edge between the two. So give me Carlos Ulberg to take Potieria out. I'm going knockout here. As far as the odds, Ulberg is a disgusting minus 350 favorite. Potieria plus 285. I like Carlos Ulberg. I like him to win by knockout. I don't like that he's minus 350. But looking at the stylistic matchup, it makes a lot of sense to me. Ulberg gets another W. Next fight on the card, we got Cody Stamann versus Douglas Silva de Andrade. I think it's a competitive fight, and I think Cody Stamann edges out a decision. I know Stamann's known as a wrestler, but he's a Golden Gloves boxer. He's definitely got good hand speed. He moves his feet pretty well. He's got nice takedowns. Obviously, on the other side, Douglas Silva de Andrade, pretty good with his jiu-jitsu, more of a Muay Thai style of striker, and does have some knockout power in his hands. Also doesn't have the same speed, though, as Stamann. I think Stamann could potentially land more strikes to Silva de Andrade, throwing, one heavy shot at a time, heavy low kick. I think Cody Stamann boxes him up a bit and touches him. I do feel like Douglas Silva de Andrade is a dangerous fight, but he is 37 at bantamweight. There's definitely up there. Cody Stamann, 33, still in his relative prime, I would say. Not that Douglas Silva de Andrade is like super far out of it. He's a tough customer, but I feel like Stamann edges out a hard-fought decision. It's going to be a competitive fight and a back and forth. I think it's a more of a coin flip fight, and the odds reflect it, but I think Stamann by a decision. The odds for Cody Stamann, close money, minus 120. Douglas Silva de Andrade, barely the underdog at like plus 102. So give me the Cody Stamann side to win, but I do think it's a dangerous fight, and I think he's in for a close one. Because both guys are pretty solid levels here. I mean, you look at the last fight, too. Silva de Andrade went distant with Said Nurmagomedov. That's pretty impressive. Then you got a nice little 2-fight win streak for Cody Stamann. I think the momentum favoring Stamann. I think the matchup is hard, but he gets it done. Cody Stamann to win it on the scorecards. Unanimous decision. Next fight. Heavyweights. Rebooked. Karl Williams, Chase Sherman. These guys were originally supposed to fight a few weeks back. It was the 287 pay-per-view, I believe. My pick has been Karl Williams. If you guys watch the channel, you know that already. I feel like Karl has definitely a wrestling advantage, definitely an athleticism edge. Striking from distance is competitive. Chase Sherman's going to have the better pure boxing of the two. He's a bare-knuckle champion at one point, and he definitely can mix it up inside. But ultimately, we've seen Chase Sherman struggle with ground. In general, like guys with decent takedowns, I think give him big problems. And Karl Williams is a pretty good wrestler, and he's a good athlete. He's a guy that can push a decent pace, and he's also pretty conservative with his attack. He doesn't go crazy for the win. When they were fighting on the 287 card, I'm like, all right, Williams gets a huge showcase on this pay-per-view. He's going to look and hard fight for a finish. But to be honest, man, I think Karl Williams is going to be happy to cruise to a unanimous decision. So I'm going to pick Karl Williams on the cards. I'd love to say sub, but I just don't think it's all that likely. I think that he uses the wrestling advantage. I think he backs up Chase Sherman against the cage, holds on him, wears on him, and grinds him down for 3 rounds. Karl Williams, unanimous. And the odds reflect that. Minus 405, Karl Williams. It's an ugly line. Plus 305, Chase Sherman. It's just one of those stylistic matchups that I think the bookies see. Is Chase Sherman, relatively punching and kick-heavy guy who can definitely throw some hammers versus someone who, in my opinion, can take him down. And not only can take him down, but is going to be able to hold him down. So Karl Williams for the win. And he's not a bad striker either. And he's got some momentum at heavyweight. He's a good athlete. I like Karl Williams. Next fight on the card. It brings us to the featured prelim of the night. And I expect these OGs to bring the fireworks. The pick, Matt Brown or Court McGee. I'm going with Matt Brown to pull this shit off. I actually think he's going to knock Court McGee out. Court was laid dead in his last fight against Jeremiah Wells. Now, I realize Court McGee is up against a guy in Matt Brown whose punching power is significantly less. But that knockout was brutal. Court McGee's not a young guy in the game at 38. He's got a lot of miles. I mean, as does Matt Brown for sure. But styles make fights. Matt Brown's more dangerous in the clinch, whereas Court McGee is more control-centric. Matt Brown is damage-centric. So how I'm seeing this fight go is Court McGee is going to be trying to hold, trying to wear on Matt Brown. Matt Brown's going to try to do damage. If Matt Brown can create little moments of space, he can definitely land. Court McGee, though he's a good grinder, is not a great wrestler. Matt Brown, we've seen him get out wrestled in the past. You know, the name like a Johnny Hendricks. At the time, though, Johnny Hendricks is creme de la creme, top level in MMA of the wrestling. Court McGee doesn't have those capabilities. I think Matt Brown's going to be dangerous in this fight. I think Matt Brown can hurt Court with elbows and knees inside. I think he can create space and strike. I know Matt Brown's 42. He's not a young guy in the fight game, but he is very live here. He's an underdog as well, and I think he's winning as a dog. I think he's going to TKO Court McGee in the second or third round in a fight where Court might be forced to strike a bit. If he's not able to just wear on Matt, consistently land takedowns in the striking matchup, I think Matt Brown is way more dangerous than him. He's got way better Muay Thai. So I'm going with Matt Brown to get it done. Expect the art of the 8 limbs on display. Matt Brown's got some nasty elbows, man. He's got some sick knees. He's got some good kicks. Decent puncher. He's going to beat Court. He's got more tools on the feet. I'm going Matt Brown for the stoppage. Plus 165. Matt Brown is a dog. Court McGee at minus 190. Give me underdog. Matt Brown to win the featured prelim of the night and put on a hell of a showcase. Next fight brings us to our main card. Make sure you guys smash that like button. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. It's Tim Means versus Alex Morono. They're throwing down, and I think Alex Morono is going to clean the slate of Tim Means. I think Morono might get a KO here. He's got nasty looping punches. He looked pretty damn fast against Santiago Ponzinibbio before getting chinned. Tim Means is going to have a bit of a length advantage, but he stands very upright, and I see overhands for Morono finding home. And I think Tim Means potentially, I don't want to say past it, but best days maybe behind him. Yes, he was competitive with Max Griffin, but Alex Morono, in my opinion, is a risky stylistic fight for Tim Means at 39. He's got too much speed. I like the overhand shots, like I said. And I also think Tim Means is not going to threaten Morono with any grappling. So it's going to be Morono doing his thing from the stand-up, finding big shots. And I think he will knock Tim Means out. I'm going Morono to win by KO to open the main card off. Morono is minus 190 as the favorite. Tim Means in that plus 166 range. Yeah, I think Morono's landing the hammers, man. Overhands. I see overhands landing on Tim Means because he is very upright. And if he looks to close that gap, I think there's going to be overhand shots that find home. Also note Tim Means southpaw, which is interesting, right? So it wouldn't be your traditional overhand. Morono, I think, could use like that looping lead hook that he likes to throw at times, and he'll find the target. Could maybe even find some straight shots. I think in this fight here, he definitely can go straight with some punches, and I feel like he'll find the target a bit more just because that, you know, that southpaw stance of Tim Means. Morono's confident on the feet, though, man. He can mix it up nicely. I like his kicks. I like his punches. I like his overall stand-up game a ton, and I think he's beating Tim Means here, and I think he's knocking him out. So, Morono, KO. Next fight, ladies going after it. Mackenzie Dern versus Angela Hill. Oh, I got to pick Mackenzie Dern to win, which is a women's favorite, which, you know, I don't want to do, but I have to pick what I'm seeing. I think Mackenzie Dern is going to get to Angela Hill with the clinch, and I think she's going to land takedowns and out-grapple her for 3 rounds. Verna Jandudoba put it on Angela Hill with the grappling attack. I think Mackenzie Dern can go a similar route. I do think that Verna has better takedowns than Angela Hill does, though, or excuse me, than Mackenzie Dern does, though, which ultimately led to Angela Hill being on her back. But Mackenzie Dern still got solid-ass jiu-jitsu. She closes the gap fairly well. She's got that constant forward pressure style. Angela Hill would have to be near perfect to win. She can't put herself in bad spots on the ground because Dern is very live for a submission. Angela Hill needs to be stinging Mackenzie Dern with punches, but it's not like Mackenzie's stand-up hasn't gotten better, and she's got some A1 forward pressure, man. She comes out with a lot of pressure from the start and doesn't really slow down, especially in a 3-round fight. I think that Dern keeps a high pace on her, gets a hold of her in the clinch, grinds on her, wears on her, looks for takedowns, look to jump the back, use the jiu-jitsu. And that's what I think she does. So Mackenzie Dern should win it. How does she get it done? I do respect that submission defense of Angela Hill, so I'm kind of feeling like Mackenzie Dern on the scorecards in this fight right here. Dern to win. She's a favorite at minus 185. And then Angela Hill in that plus 160 range is the dog. Give me Mackenzie Dern grappling display. She's also a lot younger than Angela Hill, so I'm expecting those constant improvements. 30 as opposed to 38. Angela Hill, holding on to her spot, in the UFC strawweight division, whereas I think Mackenzie Dern is still improving and getting ready to, blast on up the weight class. I don't know about being a world champ, but, maybe gets to a title challenge at some point. So Dern for the victory. Next fight on the card, the featured bout of the night. It's Daniel Rodriguez versus Yeon Machado-Garry. Holy shit. I'm picking Daniel Rodriguez to knock Yeon out. I feel like the southpaw stance of Daniel Rodriguez, he'll find some straights through the guard. The reach, right? I feel like Yeon Machado-Garry, we have this illusion that he's so long. The reach is equal between these two. And Daniel Rodriguez, when he lets his hands go, especially his straight left hand, he hits with some fucking sting. And he's got a nice right hook as well. And he also brings good forward pressure. And Yeon Garry, let's be 100% honest. Yes, he's technical with the striking. He lacks that strength in the clinch, and he doesn't have huge knockout power. He's got good precision with his punches, but is not a heavy puncher. I think Daniel Rodriguez has more sting in his shots. Daniel Rodriguez is going to keep walking forward on him. And look at the last fight for Yeon Garry. Kenan Song. The jump from Kenan Song to Daniel Rodriguez is vast. And Kenan Song was able to land a very precise check hook on the chin of Yeon Garry and drop him. Reason being is that fucking right hand came down for Garry as he was throwing his shot. Now, I'm not saying he does that often, but I notice there's moments where Yeon Garry, hands are low, chin a bit high. Daniel Rodriguez lands a big shot on you, it's going to do damage. Now, I know Daniel Rodriguez might not be the biggest knockout artist ever. He doesn't always find home to the dynamite punches, but does have wins over A1 bare knuckle fighter Mike Perry in the striking department, knocked out Preston Parsons, beat up Kevin Lee. The Leach fight was a little bit controversial, and then he loses to Neil Magny, a long guy who can grapple. Yeon Garry has not shown the grappling wrinkles, so if he runs into trouble in the striking department, what is he going to go to? I can't see him taking Daniel Rodriguez down. And don't doubt D-Rod on the ground either. He's a 10th planet jiu-jitsu guy. He's got submission skills also. I think Daniel Rodriguez, if he comes out right, which is going to be a pressure game, you can't let Machado-Garry control the pace. If he comes out motivated, electric, excited, and ready to fucking crack, I think that Daniel Rodriguez is going to end up chinning Yeon Garry. Because I honestly am not on the Yeon Garry train. I think he's overrated. You look at his wins. I mean, he looks decent. He controls range fairly well. But, look at his UFC run. Jordan Williams knockout. Good win. Good win. Williams, though, very iffy fighter. Darian Weeks beats him. Darian Weeks is pretty meh, and that was a lackluster fight. Beat Gabe Green, outstruck him from distance. It was a good performance, right? And then Kenan Song, he stops him, yes, but ultimately got hurt in that fight, and that fight wasn't long. It was like 3 weeks ago by the time we get to fight night. That's not a long time. And now jumping out here against a serious step up in competition, I'm going to say Daniel Rodriguez at 36 can still bang with the youngins. And I think Yeon Garry tastes that first L this weekend. Give me Daniel Rodriguez to pull the upset off. He's a big underdog. Plus 225, D-Rod. Yeon Garry, minus 265. Gary's a little bit more technical and crisp with the stand-up, but definitely I think more power for Daniel Rodriguez. And if he's willing to eat a few shots to close the gap, I see opportunities for big damage, man. D-Rod takes out Machado-Garry. Massive upset. Co-main event coming up. Anthony Smith versus Johnny Walker. I'm going to pick Johnny Walker to win the fight. I'm a big Johnny Walker fan. I'll tell you guys, I've been following him since the start in the UFC. But ultimately, the reason I like him here against Anthony Smith is Smith has a ton of wear and tear on the body, 36-17. Got injured in his last fight with Magomed Ankalaev, and that wasn't that long ago, 8 months ago. So, I don't know, relatively quick turnaround. Relatively. He's a little bit, I don't want to say he's injury prone, but at this point, there's a lot of fucking miles on Anthony Smith. Johnny Walker took some L's, and, we kind of were writing him off, but Jamal Hill knockout, that's the champion of the world. Thiago Santos decision loss, it's Thiago Santos. It is what it is. Anthony Smith got stopped by Thiago Santos. You look at the recent W's for Johnny Walker. Beating Kutelaba was sick. Beating Paul Craig is pretty sick. And then you look, Anthony Smith beat a Ryan Spann, beat a Jimmy Crute, beat a Devin Clark. 3 names that aren't all that creme de la creme, and Johnny Walker also beat a Ryan Spann. I look at this fight and I think about the striking. I think that Johnny Walker can hurt Anthony Smith. I think Anthony Smith could have a bit of a jiu-jitsu advantage. My question is this. At 6 feet 6 inches tall, Johnny Walker is going to be very hard to take down and control because Anthony Smith, regardless of the submission skill set, is not a top-tier wrestler. Oh, but Nikita Krylov was able to control Johnny Walker a bit. Very different stylistic matchup. Nikita Krylov has a different type of game than Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith, in my opinion, is going to be in striking here with Johnny Walker. If he gets to a submission, it's going to be after hurting Johnny Walker with a punch. Now, it's not impossible to hurt Johnny Walker. We've seen him hurt in the past. We've seen him stopped. But I don't think he has a glass jaw. I think that he's looking better in his past two. And right now, him winning this fight skyrockets his stock. And the UFC is clamoring at the bit, dreaming of a Johnny Walker win. Because I'll tell you guys what could potentially happen. If Alex Pereira is really moving up to 205, Johnny Walker, Alex Pereira, Brazil, that's a huge fight night main event. And the winner of that fights for the world title. So Johnny Walker is in a must-win spot. Because if he wins this fight, the next fight is the number one contender fight. He fumbled before in that number one contender fight. Let's see what happens, because this is the step right before it. Anthony Smith, veteran of the game, been around forever. I got a lot of respect for him. But I think Johnny Walker is going to end up knocking him out. I think it's a hard stylistic matchup for Lionheart. I'm going Johnny Walker KO. Minus 115, Johnny Walker. Minus 105, Anthony Smith. Give me that Walker side. I just feel like this is a hard fight. At the Alexander Rakic, dominant loss, right? Rakic, dangerous, but different type of danger than Johnny Walker. I just feel like, Anthony Smith, he's running into a guy that can do unorthodox things on the feet. And he brings a lot of power. I don't know how Anthony will hold up if Johnny Walker hits him with a clean strike. Regardless of how tough he is, it's different, ground and pounded in toughness, as opposed to a shot you don't see coming. And Johnny Walker, I think, can land that shot that you don't see. So give me Johnny Walker, I think, knockout. Main event of the evening. If you guys haven't, make sure you smash that like button. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. It's Jairzinho Rozenstruik and Jailton Almeida. I'll tell you guys, Jailton Almeida is an extremely confident pick. I think that he has this fight in the bag. Jailton Almeida is next up in the heavyweight division, and I think he is going to showcase that against Jairzinho Rozenstruik, who's actually pretty good. Jairzinho Rozenstruik kind of gets a bad rap as being pretty one-dimensional and lacking ground skills. He had a good fight against Curtis Blades. I know he lost pretty dominantly, but he was able to get up from some takedowns. He wasn't just ground and pounded on the floor. Rozenstruik is good. He's got nasty stand-up. He's right at that top 8 gatekeeper status. Top 8, top 10. Jailton Almeida is going to have to blast this door down. He's going to have to run through the gate, and I think that he will. Jailton Almeida's wrestling game is pretty top tier. His jiu-jitsu skill set's A1. He also has a base of stand-up, which a lot of people forget about. He's not a bad striker, but he doesn't need to sit in here and strike with Jairzinho Rozenstruik, and he's not going to. He's going to take Jairzinho Rozenstruik to the ground, and he is going to wear on him. Take his time manhandling Jairzinho. He has 5 rounds to work. Jailton doesn't have to be impatient. I'll be real with you guys. I think that it's going to be maybe a second round ground and pound TKO or submission. I could see it in the first 2. Definitely. It's possible that he gets it in the first. But Jailton has shown me that he is a patient fighter. He's going to take his time wearing on his opponents. I feel like Rozenstruik could open up and give him the sub. Though he's a hard guy to submit, I think more likely Jailton Almeida ends up beating him down from top position with ground and pound and the ref jumping in and stopping it. I think like dominant, maybe back control, or it goes from mount and then Rozenstruik rolls over and Jailton's dropping hammers on him. I see Jailton Almeida winning this fight by stoppage. I'm saying he's getting it done. He's getting the KO. TKO, ground and pound rather, is how it's going to end up going. So give me Jailton Almeida to win the fight. Dominant fashion, one-sided fight. Minus 550, Jailton Almeida. He's a huge favorite. Jairzinho Rozenstruik, plus 400 as the underdog. I feel like Jailton Almeida win by TKO might be a potential prop to look at, because I feel like the ground and pound could also do inside distance. Because you look, right? 3 of the last 5 are subs, and then 2 of them are TKOs. The guys he's TKOing tend to have good submission defense. Guys he's subbing, I mean, not awful on the floor, but there's sub opportunities there. It's just Rozenstruik has been, I don't know, it looks like a hard guy to sub. But I could also see Jailton subbing him. So submission or ground and pound. I'm seeing on the floor finish for Jailton Almeida. We'll see what the props are looking like later on in the week. And maybe the more valuable one is the one to attack. But Jailton Almeida, I think, is on the fast track. He wins this fight. The heavyweight division better watch out because this is a fucking terrifying grappling force who's on the smaller side, which I think is his advantage. He's going to be a lot quicker than these other heavyweights. His takedowns are going to be faster. We talk about Curtis Blades has good wrestling, but he's got a slow shot. This dude's shot is lightning speed, and it doesn't matter he wasn't a college wrestler. He's got fucking A1 MMA wrestling, and his grappling is scary good. Jairzinho's a powerhouse. He's an awesome kickboxer, but he's running into the guy, the next up guy, the potential future world champion. So, Jailton Almeida for the win in the main event to cap off UFC Charlotte, and it's a highly confident pick. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the breakdown. I'm looking to come out with fire this week. I'm motivated. It's like after Cain Velasquez got knocked out by JDS and then he came back and killed him in the rematch. That's what I'm looking to do after a rocky last week. Thank you guys all for tuning into the show. Make sure you smash the likes, and if you're new, subscribe. Definitely let me know what you think of the picks in the comments. If you got nothing to say, drop a W in the chat. As always, thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace, guys.